Am I live? I'm live. Hello, I'm live. It's Amy here, and I am live. And yes, I'm going to put my glasses back on in a moment. So I look like that the person that takes their glasses off. If I ever have any extra money, yes, I want to go to the optometrist and get some contacts again. And even I will be shocked to see what I look like without my stupid glasses on. Whatever, glasses. Hey, science. I can see with the stupid pair of glasses. Okay, here I am, Wednesday night, and I thought it would be fun to come on here and talk about paranormal stuff and ghosts and things like that. Now, I've always believed in the paranormal. And by the way, hello everyone. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another live stream. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being my friends. Thanks for all the comments and the support and the friendship that you bring to this channel. I appreciate it, and it makes me feel happy and comfortable to be here because I'm not really happy on camera, as you know. So thank you. Um, and I hope you're all doing well tonight. But yeah, I thought it would be fun to come on and talk about paranormal stuff. It's not Halloween, but I don't know about you, but once it gets to be in the dead heat of summer, I start to think about stuff like October and Halloween and Christmas and fall leaves and all of that stuff. So, being someone who's spiritual, I've always had paranormal experiences, but I will say this: I've never seen, as far as I know, I've never seen a full blown apparition of a ghost. I've seen orbs, I see flashes of light. I've had timeline changes and reality shifts, time shifts. I feel like I've time traveled. I've had alien experiences. Um, I've had knocks on the wall. I feel pressure change when a spirit enters a room. I've heard voices. I've recorded orbs and voices, but I've never seen a full blown ghost, nor do I need to. It's not something that I feel like I have to have in my life. I don't really like being startled. I'm not afraid of ghosts, but um, and I'm going to talk all about what I think ghosts are, what I think the whole phenomenon is. But yeah, I've never seen one, but I've felt them. I've felt spirit. I've seen their orbs. I've seen spirit mass on camera. In fact, I just captured one yesterday, um, but never a full blown ghost like this picture behind me. Now, this is one of my favorite pictures. And I could look it up. I'll look it up on my phone. If you don't know what this picture is, it's one of the first, because cameras haven't been around forever. Uh, see, the first authentic ghost picture. It was taken at a time when you couldn't really do much to manipulate a photo. We didn't have AI, we didn't have Photoshop. You could overlay negatives together and do that. You could try to manipulate the exposure process on a piece of film, but there really wasn't a way to do what we do now. And there's so many fake videos of ghosts out and hauntings out there. But back then you couldn't. And just looking at it, it's do you see how her body, the shape, the ghostly body, sort of melds into the. It doesn't have sharp lines. It doesn't have sharp lines. That's the whole point. Okay, so let me find out what is the name of that ghost. Okay, here it is. Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. So let's read about that together. Get your tea, get your sage, grab a blankie and your rosary beads if you do that. If you're scared, I'm not. I used to be scared. I used to read a lot of stories, and then I would find that if I watched a scary movie or read ghost stories around bedtime, I was pretty messed up afterwards. So I'd stop doing that. But yeah, okay. The Brown Lady of Raynham Hall is a ghost that reportedly haunts Raynham Hall in Norfolk, England. It's funny, I always thought it was in America. It became one of the most famous hauntings in the United Kingdom when photographers from Country Life magazine claimed to have captured its image. The brown lady is so named because of the brown brocade dress it is claimed she wears. Uh, Taken in 1936. Okay, so not that's not as early as I thought. Identity of the ghost. You know what? I almost want to intuit who she was, but I've probably read about this before, so I probably have some residual memory, and I don't want to. Um, okay, I don't want to recall memory and act like it's intuition. So I'll just read it. According to the legend, the apparition is that of Dorothy Walpole, 1686 to 1726. The sister of Robert Walpole, generally regarded as the first Prime Minister of Great Britain, she was the second wife of Charles Townshend, the second Viscount Townshend, who was notorious for his violent temper. The story says that when Townshend discovered that his wife had committed adultery with Lord Wharton, he punished her by locking her in her rooms in the family home, Raynham Hall. According to Mary Wortley Montagu, Dorothy was in fact entrapped by the Countess. This is like Jane Eyre, Countess of Wharton. She invited Dorothy over to stay for a few days, knowing that her husband would never allow her to leave, not even to see her children. Oh, that's sad. She remained at Raynham Hall until her death in 1726 from smallpox. Sightings. Okay. The first recorded claim of a sighting of the ghost was by Lucia C. Stone concerning a gathering at Raynham Hall. See, this almost makes me wonder. Okay, writer's psychic hit was. I'm gonna. Okay, here we go. Now I have to look this up and see if indeed this was the inspiration for Jane Eyre. In fact, I'm getting that yes, it was. It must have been. Um, I lost my glasses. Okay, interesting. So let's see. Charles Townshend had invited various guests to the hall, including a Colonel Loftus, to join in the Christmas festivities in 1835. Loftus and another guest named Hawkins said they had seen the brown lady one night as they approached their bedrooms. Um, Noting in particular the dated brown dress she wore. The following evening, Loftus claimed to have seen the brown lady again, later reporting that on this occasion he was drawn back to the specter's empty eye sockets, dark in the glowing face. Loftus's sightings led to some staff permanently leaving Raynham Hall. Of course, he could have been drunk, um, but yeah, interesting. And why am I glitching? The next reported sighting of the brown lady was made in 1836, so a year later, by Captain Frederick Marryat, a friend of novelist Charles Dickens. Interesting. And the author of a series of popular sea novels. It is said that Marryat requested that he spend the night in the most haunted room of Raynham Hall to prove his theory that the haunting was caused by local smugglers anxious to keep people away from the area. That sounds like something Alfred Hitchcock would write. Writing in 1891, Florence Marryat said of her father's experience, "He took possession of the room in which the portrait of the apparition hung, and in which she had been often seen, and slept each night with a loaded revolver under his pillow. Get her, like in Ghostbusters, get her. For 2 days, however, he saw nothing, and the third was to be the limit of his stay. On the third night, however, two young men, nephews of the baronet, knocked at his door and was undressing to go to bed, and asked him to step over to their room, which was at the other end of the corridor, and gave them his opinion on a new gun just arrived from London. My father was in his shirt and trousers, but as the hour was late and everybody had retired to rest except themselves, he prepared to accompany them as he was. She just wanted to see a naked man. As they were leaving the room, he caught up his revolver. In case you meet the brown lady, he said, laughing. Ha ha ha. When the inspection of the gun was over, the young men, in the same spirit, declared they would accompany my father back again. In case you meet the brown lady, they repeated, laughing also. So funny. The three gentlemen therefore returned in company. The corridor was long and dark. This is my fear. I hate long corridors. I hate open doorways that look into hallways. For the lights had been extinguished, but as they reached the middle of it, they saw the glimmer of a lamp coming toward them. This is what I never want to see in an old house. Okay. Coming toward them from the other end of the hall. One of the ladies going to visit the nurseries, whispered the young Townsends to my father. Now the bedroom doors in that corridor faced each other. Is anyone there's maybe somebody here? Now the bedroom doors in that corridor faced each other, and each room had a double door with a space between, as is the case in many old-fashioned houses. My father, blah blah blah, shirt and trousers. His native modesty. Get to the point, lady. So he slipped within one of the outer doors in order to conceal himself until the lady should have passed by. He watched her approaching nearer and nearer through the chink of the door until, as she was close enough for him to distinguish the colors and style of her costume, he recognized the figure as the physiognomy of the portrait of the brown lady. He had his finger on the trigger of his revolver and was about to demand it to stop and give the reason for its presence there. Hark! Halt! Who goes there? Why are you following me? Is it my bloomers? When the figure halted of its own accord before the door behind which he stood like she was omnipresent, and holding the lit lamp she carried to her features, grinned in a malicious and diabolical manner at him. This act so infuriated my father, who was anything but lamb-like in disposition, that he sprang into the corridor with a bound and discharged the revolver right in her face. What a dick. The figure instantly disappeared, the figure at which for several minutes 3 men had been looking together, so 3 men saw her, and the bullet passed through the outer door of the room on the opposite side of the corridor and lodged in the panel of the inner one. My father never again attempted to interfere with the brown lady of Raynham. And she was next seen in 1926 when Lady Townsend and her son and his friend claimed to have seen the ghost on the staircase. Ever since, sightings have dwindled, with some claiming she now haunts nearby. She moved nearby Houghton Hall and Sandringham House. Ooh, Sandringham. So that's interesting. Country Life magazine. Is that what the picture was taken for? In 1936, Captain Hubert Provand, a London-based photographer working for Country Life magazine, and his assistant Andre Shearer were taking photographs of Raynham Hall for an article. Oh, so not to take a picture of a ghost. Did they know the legend? They claimed that they had already taken a photograph of the hall's main staircase and were setting up to take a second when Shearer saw a vapory form gradually assuming the appearance of a woman moving down the staircase toward them. Is my lighting ready? Under Shearer's direction, Provin quickly took the cap off the lens while Shearer pressed the trigger to activate the camera's flash. Later, when the negative was developed, the famous image of the brown lady was revealed. So they saw her, a vapory form, assuming the appearance of a woman. The account of Provin and Shearer's ghostly experience at Raynham Hall was published. Wow, and December 26, 1936, right after Christmas, along with the photograph of the brown lady. The photograph and the account of its taking also appeared in January 1937 edition of Life magazine. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. There's an archive of Life magazines on Google Books. So if you ever want to see like all the Life magazines from the early, probably before 1936 till mid 70s. I'll take a picture of my window here. It looks interesting. Interesting. Anyway, 1936. That's my old camera. If you look up Google Books, Life magazine archive, somebody downloaded and made PDFs of every page of every Life magazine throughout the decades. And so if you go look up 1936, I'll probably do it too. No, 1937, January 4th, 1937, Life magazine, you'll find the story about the brown lady. I'm going to do it. And then thereafter, the noted paranormal investigator Harry Price interviewed Provand and Shearer. Well, interesting. Only collusion between the 2 men would account for the ghost if it is a fake. A shout, and the cap was off, and the flash will fire with the results which are now seen. Mr. Shearer saw the apparition descending the stairs at the precise moment when Captain Provand's head was under the black cloth. The shout, the cap was off of the camera, and the flashbulb fired. And the results which we now see, I could not shake their story, and I had no right to disbelieve them. Skeptical reception. Well, I can see why people were skeptical. Others claim that the image is an accidental double exposure or that light somehow got into the camera. That looks like a little bit more than just light. You could actually see her face like a shawl, the dress. You could see her collar right here, like the white, or maybe yeah, the scarf or shirt. You can see her arms and the sleeve. You don't see any of that, do you? Because do you see my hand doing that? Or did I just do that? Yeah, you don't see my hand doing anything, but you can see her there. You can clearly see her. Maybe if I do this, does that show up? You see her face, the line of her shirt, her shawl, her sleeve hem, her arms, like right. Darn it. Whatever. I can see her. Um. Okay. Yeah, some people say it looks like Virgin Mary. I think it's the lady. From the first time I saw this picture, this is probably what sparked a lot of my ghostly fascination was this picture. I saw it in some old, probably at school, an old encyclopedia in the library at school. And I remember seeing it and thinking, that looks authentic and getting chills. And since then, I've seen many ghost pictures, and you could tell the ones that are fake. You can tell. And to me, the whole thing is, it really does blend in to the picture. The ones that are fake, you could see that it looks like a double exposure, if you know what I mean. It's just too obvious of the fabric, even a face. Um, Here, it's just, she is a vapor. She's an energy. She's like a smoky light. I think it's real. You guys let me know what you think. I think it's real. Um, take a sip of water. I've always been fascinated with ghosts. Like I said, I've never seen a full apparition, but I've always been fascinated with the idea that perhaps it's because that means that we don't really die, that there's another side, that there's some other realm. Um, and there's just that whole, I don't know. I'm fascinated. I'm really fascinated with ghosts and ghost stories. I used to watch The Haunting of with Kim Russo, the psychic medium, and she would go to locations where from Celebrity Ghost Stories. If you've never watched that show, they had a show called Celebrity Ghost Stories where they'd have about three stories of various celebrities from all walks of Hollywood, music, etc. And they would talk about their hauntings. It's amazing how many of them had hauntings. I suppose that's because they travel a lot and go to different locations, stay in different hotels, etc. And each one of them, she would break it down in her show, The Haunting of. It's probably still on cable or Prime. You could probably still find it. The thing was, she always helped them understand why they had a haunting. It always meant something. And that's when I was really learning a lot about my gifts and um, that it wasn't just a fascination, that I was actually meant to do this kind of work where I would talk to as a medium between the earthly realm and the spiritual realm. So one of my favorite episodes was when she went to, was it the asylum, a mental asylum from the probably late 1800s. Penthurst, let me look it up. The Haunting of Kim Russo and Penthurst. That's probably not right, but I think I'm close. Creepiest locations. I would say the creepiest location was at this Penhurst. Okay, that one really creeped me out. But I'll tell you what, it it talked. What it did was it talked a lot about how to protect yourself because the girl, the celebrity that she took back to the asylum, who had had a major experience with ghosts of these patients, a lot of them children, who are stuck in this old asylum. And why her? Because she's probably some energetic portal to that she was able to see them and experience it. Anyway, Kim Russo was able to show the girl how to protect herself with different crystals and prayers and things like that, guardian angels, protection angels. That taught me a lot. And it taught me a lot about how these hauntings are for a reason as our spiritual development, maybe past life. Um, I don't know. I just thought I just watched that show, watched The Haunting of. So here I am. Okay. Do I believe that all ghosts are ghosts? Are all hauntings ghosts? No, I don't believe that. In fact, I think a lot of these shows that you watch, like what's the was Ghost Adventures with Zach. Okay, no offense to Zach and his team. I used to watch a lot of. I watched Ghost. That was the one. Ghost Adventures and Ghost. What was it called? Oh gosh, I should know this. Ghost. You know what I'm talking about. Ghost reality ghost show. It'll show up. I know Ghost Adventures is the one with Zach. Top 10. Ancient Aliens, no. Paranormal Caught on Camera, no. The Unexplained, no. I don't watch those. No. See none of these. The Dead Files, no. Ghost Adventures. Okay, Ghost Adventures is Zach. They're not going to talk about the other one? I'm surprised. Huh. I have thought about doing ghost hunting. Absolutely. Some people think they're completely fake. I don't believe that. Ghost Hunters is the other one. Okay, Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures. Ghost Adventures is just mostly for entertainment. They really do conjure up a lot of the fear, and it really is like a show. In fact, one time he brought a Ouija board into the house, and that ruined it for me completely because Ouija boards are portals to bring in other negative entities. And so he completely ruined whatever, if the house was haunted, he ruined it by bringing in a Ouija board. And also showed that he didn't have any trust in his own abilities. Ghost hunters would have actual psychics on the show. So anyway, I love those shows. Okay, so do I believe that ghosts are ghosts, or all hauntings hauntings? I don't believe so. I think that a lot of times on these shows, and when people have experiences that they can't explain, a lot of it is like looking through time, and you're actually looking through a window of time, and you're seeing an actual scene or energetic like residue of, let's say let's say you walk into your kitchen, you live in an old house and you walk into your kitchen and you see a little girl in some old frock from the 1800s, and she doesn't look at you, but she turns and then walks through the room and disappears and fades right in front of your eyes. You go, oh my God, I saw a ghost. But I think that's not always a ghost. It's an energetic residue, and you're literally seeing through time. You're seeing a movie of time. Now, that may sound just as unbelievable as seeing a ghost, but I actually believe that our energy leaves imprints and residue, and time is like a movie, and sometimes it's like a record. It's the record skips, and we hear the same sound from a couple grooves ago. Um, when I heard the story, I've seen the video of the soldiers in the, what is it, Gettysburg. Um, People have recorded videos of these soldiers, very ghostly looking soldiers. You could even see like the guns, and they're walking along the path from the Civil War. And people think that's a ghost. I don't. I think that that is an energetic residue, and you're actually seeing through time, and they captured the time glimpse. So, but of course, I would like to hear your opinion. I do believe in ghosts. I just believe that a lot of what people see are actual glimpses into time and energetic hauntings, if you will. Now, when something touches you, um, when it's repeated, when you hear sounds, I believe that could be a haunting. And someone's asking for help, so probably you should get someone in to help them and help them go to the other side. I hate it when there's ghost shows and they say, yeah, you got a ghost. And then they just leave, and they leave you with the haunted house. And the worst thing is the spirit was waiting for someone to help them go to the other side because not everybody knows how to do that. A lot of churches aren't teaching you how to pass on to the other side. So I feel like it's kind of sad. These I stopped watching the ghost shows when I realized that I'd learned everything I needed to learn, but also um, that they weren't actually helping the ghost pass on the spirit pass on to the other side. So okay, my hauntings. As a child, I grew up in a very tense household. We moved from a little town home to a split level home, like 1970s type of split level Midwestern home. My father was an alcoholic, very angry. He was in a religious cult. He was just a very diabolical, angry person. And so there was a lot of fear in my life, and fear can attract hauntings. But I also, because of I've had this ability my whole life, really, um, I believe my third eye was open, and I would see a lot of things. I would see colorful things on my pillow at night. And I remember I told my mother, um, I see colors on my pillow. And she said, oh, those are just bugs. I don't know why bugs would be a better thing to accept than, I don't know, spirits or what have you. But it was like seeing a kaleidoscope of these little things on me. Anyway, I believe my third eye was open. But also, yes, my fear, I was attracting spirits. And I would see through the doorway, and it wasn't my father, because I knew when my father would get home because he was loud and he was angry. It was this male figure would walk through the hall. And in fact, the night we moved into that house, I was probably about 3. It was one of my first memories. My mother and father on the front porch stoop of the house, and they were arguing about who had the key to get in the house. They were always arguing. My father was always angry. So they finally found the key, and I remember that memory locked in, one of my first memories. And we go into the house, and then we spend that day bringing everything in. So when it was nighttime, there was 3 bedrooms: the master bedroom and 2 small bedrooms. My brother, being the boy, the oldest, got a room all to himself. My mother and father, of course, had the biggest bedroom, and my sister, I guess, got the other one. I don't know why they put little me, the youngest, the baby, downstairs in the living room all by myself, but they did, on this old couch. And there was a little cutout in the window of like glass diamond shape on the front door. And so the couch was in the living room, and there's the front door. And I remember waking up and seeing a man look in the door at me. And I remember thinking, okay, it's dark. Maybe he won't see me. Maybe he won't see me. It was like that moment when you go, and your breath catches, and I'm just laying there as still as I can. And and I thought maybe he can't see me, but he looked right at me. And looking back now, knowing what I know about my abilities and spirit and everything, maybe it was a spirit guide, or more likely it was a Native American figure. And that was because this was a development, like Poltergeist. Uh, the development had been built on this land in Kansas, in my small town. I feel now it was a Native American spirit. That's what I feel. And maybe I'm just getting that intuitively. I'm channeling that. But yeah, it scared the hell out of me. And I remember my little 3-year-old self with my chubby cheeks and my red hair, and Mom, Dad. And I was never supposed to upset my dad. I was never supposed to, agitate him with anything. That was one of the unspoken rules. Don't make Dad mad. But I called up. That's how scared I was. Mom, Dad, there was a man at the door. And I don't think they came down to look. I just remember my dad yelling, go back to sleep or something. And of course I didn't really sleep. Okay. So that was my first what I would call haunting. I feel now it was a haunting. I don't think that was a real person. I really feel that was a Native American spirit that looked in that door. Okay. And we used to find arrowheads in the yard, by the way. Okay. So the next one, and I've had many little things. I've had many intuitions. I told you that I got shocked from the electric socket in the bedroom in my yellow fuzzy pajamas. And I came to, it knocked me out. I came to, and I had black soot all over me and that electric smell. And it's funny because that's never meant anything to me other than I was just a stupid kid. I could have killed myself. But years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was reading a book by, again, the medium Kim Russo, and I turned right to it. I just grabbed the book off the shelf at the bookstore, opened it up for no reason, and it said, Kim Russo said, as a child, I was electrocuted, and I found out that this is common between people who have psychic abilities, that we all have had an electric shock at some point in our childhood, or maybe like people who get hit by lightning. Hello, Carolyn. Hi. Yeah, rambling about paranormal stuff. So if you have any stories, and I know you do, let me know and we'll talk about that. I talked about the brown lady. Uh, what was it? The brown lady. I went through a whole thing here. The brown lady of, I probably took it off already. Bronwyn Hall or Arnwyn Hall, whatever. At the beginning of the live, I go into the whole thing. I feel that's a real. It was one of the first photographs of a ghost that I saw, and I remember thinking, "That's real. That's real. That was a real lady." And really freaked me out, but also fascinated me. Um, my friend and I got into Nancy Drew books, the whole series in junior high, and I remember I always went for the ones that were about ghosts. And I've always been fascinated with ghosts. I've always been fascinated with near death experiences and hauntings. And as I said, I don't believe that all hauntings are ghosts. I believe that some, yes, many are ghosts, but I believe that the ones that are ghosts are more personal. You're meant to have them. It's probably a past life thing. You're drawn back to a certain house or hotel or place, and that ghost is part of your past life experience, and they're meant to teach you something and wake you up. But a lot of what people see are actual residual, like glimpses through time. You actually see a movie of time, and so talking about that. So and I've told some of these stories before, but yeah, my childhood haunting, got electrocuted. I used to have this weird rush in my ears, and I remember being in the backyard and just being like, why am I hearing? And it sounded like people marching. Now, maybe now, uh, I was hearing something. Maybe I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what that meant. I still don't know what that meant, but it was just this loud rushing of sound. It sounded like footsteps. So, Stonewall effect. Okay, I'll look that up. Let me look that up. I'm like my daughter. I'm gonna look. What does that mean? It's funny. I'll say something, and my daughter will like look it up real quick, and I'm gonna do that just like she does. Okay, Stonewall effect. What does that mean? Stonewall. Oh well. Yeah, let me know what that means because I'm getting something else. Is it the well, whatever. Um, yeah, let me know. Okay, so the next haunting. I was kind of fascinated with the idea of being a ghost because of my childhood trauma. And my brother and sister would often say that I was invisible. They couldn't hear me, they couldn't see me. And maybe it was a self fulfilling prophecy that I started to think about things like ghostly things. What would it be like to be invisible and to go between realms? And I remember seeing in high school, I had to go see an old vintage movie at the movie theater. With some friends, and they wanted to see The Invisible Man, which is an old black and white movie. And I remember thinking, well, that's interesting. What if you were invisible and you could do whatever you wanted and play tricks on people, but also just exist and live in your own realm? And then there was a movie called Ghost World. Scarlett Johansson's in that movie, and it was a movie about two teenage very angsty girls, very sarcastic, and the one girl has a prophecy where she wants to just get on a bus and disappear. And by the end of the movie, she does that. And I always thought that was fascinating too. The idea of, well, whatever. Okay, so the other thing that I saw, well, Jane Eyre. That's a ghost story. Um, Christmas Carol. That's a ghost story. Those are my favorite. I've read them and watched the movies over and over and over again. And I love ghost stories. I love spooky stories. Okay. Oh, okay. Interesting. Stones hold on to an action and is played over and over, but they are not ghosts. Okay, that makes sense. Like granite, doesn't granite and limestone, they have a lot of memory, like caves. I wrote a book called The Soul Seekers, and there was a whole thing about granite and limestone in the caves, and they ended up in the caves at the end of the book. So, and her, one of the main characters was a ghost that only she could see. So that's interesting. It's an interesting theory. Maybe that's what, growing up Catholic, it seemed like a lot of, like the churches always have that stone. And then a lot of the houses that Catholics would live in would be that stone. And I remember to this day, it always seems kind of spooky to me that they live in that type of magnifier. Yes, it's like tape. Okay, interesting. Well, I believe that. I believe that. That explains a lot. And I was saying how, isn't it the Gettysburg where people videotaped soldiers? And although it looks ghostly, I feel like it's a time loop. They're actually watching almost like a movie of time. And they captured it on film, probably because we're supposed to see that because we're all supposed to wake up and see that there is, all this stuff happening. Paranormal is just normal, but like different, it's like the normal world, but on slightly in between. The para would, I guess, mean with normal. So yeah. Okay, let me see. Let me read it. Carolyn Amy. There's a BBC documentary called The Stone Tape that investigates the Stonewall effect. Walls recording images like a camera. And there's no I'll have to look it up. And there's no explanation for how the images differ each person. Interesting. Weird. So it's like exposed film that can be exposed. So it has some sort of, maybe it has, what is that glowstone that has and like lightning bugs where they have, that's interesting. Well, hello, Carolyn. Hello, Jamie, Roger. Hello, Sharon. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I've rambled on a lot. I still have some more stories, but I'm totally happy to hear your ghostly experiences. And I think everybody has at least one because we live in a world where there's spirits literally everywhere. And I honestly, even if you live in a brand new house, you're living on old land. So, and also, if you're a portal, you're going to attract spirits. So it doesn't matter if you're in a brand new house or some new hotel room. Um, if you're going to attract a spirit, if you have the energy, they're going to suck to you. And I've told you the story. Okay, I just remembered it. Down the road is the graveyard. It's a very historical old graveyard in my town. And my daughter and I went there years ago. And this is really when I was starting to wake up to my abilities. So I'd say probably about 2017, maybe. And hey, everyone. Okay, so we were walking around, and I've always loved graveyards. I've always been fascinated with graveyards. I'd love to read the headstones and think about the history of these people. And so we got to the part where there was, and I'm feeling it right now as I talk about it. It was it wasn't the Civil War. It was more like the World War II area. And I felt, and I'm still feeling it, something grabbed my throat and made me, and I started to cry, started to tear up and get really, really, really upset. And I told my daughter, we have to get out of here. We have to get out of here. So we did, and it really affected me. And then I said, okay, push it off, push it off. And every time I thought about it, I started to get that feeling on my throat and like I wanted to cry. And so I made myself never go in the graveyard and not think about it. I have gone back there. I've made amends and I've gone back there. Well, anyway, after I had that experience, it was months later and blocks away, taking my dog for a walk, and I think about it out of randomly. I think about the graveyard and that experience, and I have whole body electricity go up and down, and like the kind of electricity that not just like a quick shock, but literal tingles of popping. I could hear the popping of the crackling of the electricity, and I feel like my cheeks got fuzzy, and then it went down again, and I had that about 3 more times, and then I got sick. I remember, and I was in a bad time of my life, really. But I think that was again a spirit who was meant to wake me up, because I think, like that electric shock I had as a child from the electric socket, this spirit was, it was like my ascension or my awakening. Um, Maybe they didn't have the greatest intentions, I don't know. But I feel like it opened up all my chakras, is what it did. But it was very strange, a very strange experience. And yeah, thinking of that person, it's a soldier. He's a 1940, like World War II soldier, and he kept grabbing my throat, and he was not happy that he died in the war. So just move on, or just step back, step back. Um, oh, thank you, Sharon. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. She said, please hit the like button. And I know everyone does. I appreciate that. If there's anybody in here who, uh, yeah, if you're not commenting, you're welcome to lurk. I've been a lurker on many channels, but yeah, it really helps the algorithm to hit the like button. Um, but yeah, any stories from anyone else? Otherwise, I'll keep rambling. And I had Car Wash was on. TCM had Car Wash on, so I was watching that. Now they're showing Charlie Chaplin. Jamie, there's Charlie Chaplin on here. So what else? Okay, as you type, I want to hear your ghost stories. That's why we're here, because I know we all have them. Um, okay, so the one in Topeka, Kansas. Went to somebody's birthday party. It was at night. Went to this. It was an old turn of the century Victorian house. And you know me, I'm like, ooh, that's, I love all the history. Thank you, love. Thank you, Sharon. Um, and so the birthday's downstairs. There's an old piano. You know how old houses are. They have the big open doorways. It's not open concept, but there's lots of rooms, but they have those open doorways and the creaking floors. And there's often a back servant's staircase that leads up to the middle part of the house and then up to the attic. Well, I went to the second floor, and I felt very strongly that I was not alone up there. And I remember thinking, yeah, there's some people in here in the second floor, and they're avoiding the party downstairs, and they don't like me up here. It was really clear to me what I was feeling. And then there was a little staircase that went up to an attic door, and it said keep out. And I was like, ooh, what's going on with that room? Yeah, it was just really clear that I was in somebody's, probably from the 1800s, living quarters. They were avoiding the party, and they didn't like me up there. So thought that was interesting. And then the next one was in Aspen, Colorado. It was a late honeymoon. And they didn't say, I didn't hear that we were in the carriage house. We rented out the carriage house for a very late honeymoon. Got there late at night because we had to drive through the mountains, and it took hours and hours to drive through the mountains. So we arrived, and I'm just not a middle class, probably lower middle class. Grew up, not rich. So this is, pretty nice setting for me to be in Aspen, Colorado. And but of course, I would have the ghostly experience. So um, it was nighttime, and I'm laying in bed, and I'm next to the door in this old carriage house. I'm next to the door, and I started to think, I don't feel good. I don't feel safe. I feel like something's watching me, like right in my face. Something was watching me. And I couldn't sleep all night, and I was just like freaked out. Oh my God, this thing won't leave me alone. What is this? And I told my husband the next day, my ex-husband now, something watched me all night. And he's like, oh, whatever. And so downstairs, um, they're talking, and he talks to them or something, and I hear them say, oh yeah, that was the morgue. The carriage house was the morgue. And so later on the internet, I look up, was this carriage house in Aspen, this hotel, is haunted, and I found all these stories about hauntings at that place and other people. So that really freaked me out. And now, of course, I don't. I have compassion for ghosts because they're just spirits without their body. They don't accept that they're dead and that they need to go to the other side, or they're just tied to that area that how maybe they were killed. I don't know, but I actually have compassion. So for me, it's not like a haunting anymore. I actually have like compassion for them as a soul. And that's why I don't watch ghost shows anymore. That's the real reason I don't do it. Okay, Jamie says, when my grandmother died, I was followed around Liverpool. Wow, over a huge distance by a St. Bernard dog. I assumed there was a rational explanation until my granddad died 5 years later and it came back. Wow. Wow. Well, that's really impressive. I mean, that's to me, when I hear that, I think, yeah, that's totally them. They were protecting you because you know how St. Bernards were protectors and healers and comforters to someone who was sick, like in the Swiss Alps, right? So they were literally sending you a message of protection and love and healing. So that's really sweet. And I'm sure you know, Jamie, that that was them, right? A lot of times when we ask, was this my family member? Was this my lost love? Was this person who died? Like you already know, really, you know that it's them. I've had pets that you could tell that a butterfly uh, was them coming back to say, you know, not goodbye. You know how sometimes people say a spirit saying goodbye. It's never goodbye. It's just that they've transformed, and I just felt like cold, like a touch right here. It's never goodbye. It's just things are different. It's a transformation. Um, yeah, it's never goodbye. One of my dogs, she died. She got it's old age and pneumonia, and she had to be put down at the vet. But she was at death's door, and she was a very stubborn dog. She and I fought all day. And when I say fought, I mean like I would say, "Come here and do this." Stop barking and just sit down. And she would do like the exact opposite. She would bark all day. If I took her to go to the bathroom, she would come in and then poop in the corner. I mean, it was just like all day long. This dog and I would argue about about everything. And but I loved her. She was a family member. Pets are like children, and to me, so she was like my first dog. My first dog. So she passed away at the vet, and then I went to get her ashes, and I had this statue of a dog in the front yard, and it's very heavy. It had never fallen over. It has never fallen over again. It's a heavy statue. But when I came back with her ashes, that statue that I bought when she was a puppy dog, it was knocked over. So you can't tell me that wasn't her. Um, and that makes me want to cry almost because we did, those years when you first get married and you have your first dog. This kind of chaotic and the time went by a little fast there. So anyway, and there's my little sweet baby, oh, checking on him. All right, any other stories? If you have any questions about ghostly experiences you've had, we could talk about them. But yeah, I talked about this lady. I lost it. I already took it off. It was the lady of God. What is it? I know I can find it again if I look. Is it on here? What was it? No, I don't have it on there. Doggone it. Oh, you think it was them? Okay. Yes, I think it was them. It was outside my house. I then took a 45-minute taxi journey, and after paying the driver, I looked across the street and it was there. Same thing happened 5 years later. Yeah, I mean, it was them. It's kind of interesting how dogs can be. Animals are often messages. Butterflies, birds, dogs. And as I read that, I thought about this experience I had Yeah, see Carolyn. Let me read Carolyn's comment too here. Almost daily, we have a dog walking around the house. We have four dogs, but they are asleep at the time. Interesting. It's like it is a spirit animal protecting you and guarding the house. That's what I think. It's a real dog, but it's all, we are all particles of energy, of spirit. So it's real. It's a real dog, but it's also being led by spirit to protect you. And definitely, that's really what I get. So I was thinking about when I read Jamie's comment too. When I was a kid, there was this experience where it was after my parents got divorced, and it was pretty close after that. So still a lot of chaos in the house. And my mother began to work at the library in our small town. And it was the morning. I remember there was a bulldog decided that it was just going to sit in our yard, and it adopted us. Well, my mother didn't want a dog. And I think we had some cats because we always had cats. Anyway, she called the animal control or whatever. And I remember looking out the window and thinking, why is this bulldog in our yard? What is it? Why does it want to be with us? And looking back now, I think it must have been like you guys are talking about the spirit protector. Yes, I think it is my dog Max. We were close. Oh, that's really sweet. It's good to know that they come back. Yeah, I think it is too, Carolyn. They never, like I said, it's never goodbye. It's never, like in Titanic when she says, I'll never let go, Jack. I'll never let go. And of course, then she literally lets go of his and pries his frozen hand off her hand, and he sinks to the bottom of the ocean. Um, but it's not goodbye. It's just different. Um, it's a different way to love and communicate. And that's something I've talked about before. Hey, baby. That when when we have spirit in our life, one thing that they want us to learn is how they communicate, and that is through butterflies, coins, songs on the radio, um, birds, especially birds are big, and different animal visits. So, and little flashes, if you're walking through your hallway and you see little flashes of light as you walk, I see that, like blue flashes. I think those are pets that have passed on. So, interesting. Still have my itchy throat from yesterday. Well, it's anything else. Anything else? I used to read, I don't think it was R.L. Stein. It wasn't Goosebumps. Let's see. It was from, let me look at it. Oh, it had these really creepy drawings and these ghost stories. And oh my God, I would read them and not be able to sleep at night. Is this it? Ghost story. How about Amityville? I almost hate to bring it up because I don't want to bring negative energy in. But does anyone remember? Of course you do. The Amityville movie and the books. Here we go. Scary stories to tell in the dark. Collected from folklore and retold by Alvin Schwartz. Drawings by Stephen Gamel. Those stories scared the crap out of me, but I read them obsessively when I was a teenager. Oh, my cough. See, I think I'm having allergies really bad. You had an NDA and it was amazing. Okay, tell me about that because see, we need to do a show about that. Um, because I've always been fascinated with near death experiences. And okay, so mine have been through dreams. And I can honestly say now that I really felt like I was in heaven. Please forgive me for my itchy throat here. Let me take some more. So I was in a garden and there was flowers, and there was like a gardener, which now I think was a guide, because I had several dreams with my spirit guides at that time. And every time I would try to stand up and talk, the flowers would tower over me, and they would sing this really loud song. And it was kind of like Alice in Wonderland. And then the gardener was like, shh. So the flowers, I think they were healing me, because I had a lot of depression through my teenage years. And so, and I remember the color, the sound and the color, and waking up and going, "Oh, we dream in color." Some people say we dream in black and white, but it was vivid. And now I've come to understand that and several other dreams I've had were from the other side, from that was heaven, a visit to heaven, um, which we probably do a lot in our dreams and we don't realize. So tell me about, if you want to, Carolyn, tell me about your NDE. If you don't want to, that's fine. And also, have you read Heading into the Light by, oh gosh, that book really woke me up about the other side. Is it Heading into the Light by Betty G. Eady? Let me see. Betty, okay, I'll just look up her name. Betty G. Eady. Betty Eady. Embraced by the Light. Okay, it's called Embraced by the Light. I read that book, and it really was a transformation for me about learning what spirit is like, what the other side is like, and a lot of it that I already knew. Um, we're told in the Catholic Church and many churches that certain things aren't true, but she confirmed a lot of the things that I'd always felt to be true about God and, spirit, the divine, our souls, our higher selves, our guides, what heaven is like, and about forgiveness, that God is all knowing and all loving, um, and that heaven isn't just clouds and harps and bliss. It's like we talked about yesterday, that it's a continual process. Talk about the seven levels of heaven. I think that George Harrison probably is up on like the seventh level. No, he just said no. He said no. He's still learning too. Okay. I've been corrected. That's interesting. Yeah, he said no. He's still learning. Um, I believe that the only death is when your soul dies, when your heart dies. Um, People talk about that talking to spirits on the other side is talking to the dead, and that's in the Bible. It says, "Thou shalt not," or whatever, "Thou shalt not talk to the dead." Well, the only one that's dead is someone who has a dead soul, and there's many people walking on this earth who have dead souls. They have bodies, they take breath, and their hearts beat, but their soul is dead and black, and those are the ones that the Bible is talking about, that we're not supposed to mess with. Okay, so anything else? 909. It's 909 here. That's John saying hello. Yeah. Okay. Any other? That's pretty much it for me. If you guys have any stories anymore, let me know. Let me see if I can think of any others. Oh, here's a story, and this is paranormal. It's not ghost, but it's paranormal. So I think I was 14, and it was at the time I was babysitting a lot, and it was summer. It was just about time for school to start, but it was still summer. And my brother had gotten his first car, and he was driving to Indiana to go to a Catholic seminary college. So I remember feeling some foreboding. I remember thinking, that's a long drive for my brother. My brother's very smart, very funny individual, and he's the oldest of the family. But I had foreboding. I remember thinking, I don't feel good about this. I don't know. So I'm at my babysitting job. It's a Monday. And then my mother calls me midday and says, your brother was in a car accident on the highway. He fell asleep at the wheel, and your sister and I are going to drive to go be with him as he's in the hospital. And so they did. So I was left alone. I had to fend for myself. And of course, yeah, I'm 14. That's old enough, but I still felt like really sad and depressed and scared. Um, anyway, when later on, my mother told me that she was at work in the library and she heard, maybe not heard a voice, but a voice said to her, get on your knees and pray. And of course, my mother was very Catholic, but she said that she heard a voice, get on your knees and pray. And so she did. And afterwards, she received a phone call that my brother had been in the accident. And here's the thing, his car was totaled. He'd fallen asleep at the wheel. The car had veered off the lanes of the highway, rolled over, went onto the other side, and hit another car. And those people were badly injured. My brother's car was totaled, but he didn't have a scratch. So I've always found that like divine intervention happened. Carolyn says, I was having a miscarriage and I took my daughter to heaven. It was dark, and as you moved through the tunnel, the pin light grew bigger. It was so white, it was gold. They told my daughter to come. That's so sad. That's so sad. And I'm sorry that happened to you, Carolyn. Um, but it's both sad and beautiful that you were able to go with her. It's kind of like a privilege that's amazing that you were able to be able to go with her. But how sad! I know that must have been just awful. And oh my gosh, she went forward, and they said I had to go back because they were not finished with me yet. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I that must have been incredibly depressing afterwards. I can't even imagine, to be honest. So they say that they do the strongest people. They test the strongest people, right? Or do they say that? But that's what it feels like. But still, sometimes it's just too much, and that must have been really hard to get over. So I'm sorry that happened to you. You mentioned George. This is not really a supernatural thing, but the night before he was stabbed, this attacker cornered me with a flick knife and asked me if I was John. Said, "Wow, well that's scary. Um, that's scary, Jamie. Well, I mean, and John was dead already. That that's scary. And then he actually did go after George, which George was always afraid of. He was terrified that someone would try to take him out. And so the fact that it actually happened really pisses me off. The fact that he had to live with that fear after what happened to John, and then somebody actually carried out what he was afraid of and threatened his life. It pisses me off. And George was the one who was so private and made it so that it couldn't happen, and then it still happened. And it just feels like such a violation, you know? Yeah. No, because in spirit second, you know everything but can't bring it back. Well, you if you haven't read what it is, Embraced by the Light by Betty J. Eady, she had a hysterectomy. She had a hysterectomy and was having hemorrhage. And so when you said that, I thought, that's, and she saw the light too. You should read that book. You probably have read it, Carolyn, but if you haven't read it, please go. It's probably on Amazon. You can download the Kindle for like $5 or something. I think I saw it was said $5 on here. Um, so read that book because that's very similar. And you guys, you ladies, probably share a common theme in your life, in the spiritual, a spiritual theme. She because what and then the reason I'm saying that is because she had the similar experience of an NDE, and then she saw her daughter in heaven before that that spirit, that soul came into her life. And her guides told her that this girl would come into her life later on. And see, Betty didn't want to come back to her body. She was willing to stay on the other side. And she said that coming back was extremely difficult because it's like putting on a heavy, wet, and of course her body was jacked up from the hysterectomy and the bleeding. Um, a heavy, uncomfortable suit. And she was very depressed. She said for years it was incredibly depressing. Like you said, they tell you, um, but the other side is so beautiful, such a high frequency. It's what we're supposed. That's why we're so depressed here down on Earth, because we're missing that beautiful, loving, high frequency of the other side. And yeah, she's a lot of people that have NDEs struggle with depression because it was just, oh gosh, she had 4 miscarriages. I'm so sorry. That was very heartbreaking and hard to go through. Um, they, those children in spirit form are all with you, and um, yeah, we're all a soul family. Um, but that's, I can't even. I did not have a miscarriage. Well, I will say this. I thought I was pregnant very early on before I had my 2 children. And I thought I was pregnant. My sister had a baby, and I was, you get baby fever. And I thought I was pregnant. And then my period showed up like a couple months later. And I remember feeling very depressed because that was going to be my April baby with red hair, like a little me or whatever. And I remember my sister said, "Oh well," but I remember I felt very depressed about it. But then I had my daughter, and of course I couldn't love anyone more than I love my beautiful Julie. And John Lennon told me I was pregnant with my daughter Julia, in a dream. He stood on a hillside, and yeah, it was one of my dreams with John, and that was another dream in heaven. Yes, there's a reason for everything. You're right. There's a reason for everything, and I have work to do, but it's still hard. It's still hard to be here on Earth. But I know what you're saying. Um, you have a higher purpose, absolutely, but that doesn't make it emotionally easier. Um, but yes, so I saw John. Um, okay, in the dream, it's very sort of Sergeant Pepperish. The mustache, the glasses, the hair, and he's on this very green, like Ireland or something. Lots of, and yes, you will see them. Yes, you will. Um, and again, they're with you. I see like their arms around you. Like even our higher. If I don't know if you've had other children besides them. I don't know if you said that you've had children, but I see their spirit, their higher self, with their arms around you, kind of like, how in Little Women, how the 4 girls from the March family would go around their mother. They called her Mammy, right? And they would put their arms around her and kiss her cheek. That's what I see, Carolyn. I see that. I don't know if they were girls, all girls, but I see that. And I'm getting the Little Women reference, so take that as you will. Okay, so with John, um, that must mean something too, the Little Women reference. Okay, so John, it was green hills, rolling hills, like in Ireland, and he's standing on one of these hills. And I walk up on my hill, and we're like hill, and we're like right, and then we sort of come together. And I had given up having, because I'd had that where I wasn't pregnant, and I thought, well, I'm never going to get pregnant. It's just not going to happen. And someone told me I was too skinny. They literally walked up to me one day and they said, "Amy, you're too skinny to get pregnant. Um, you'll never get pregnant." And so I really thought I was never going to have a baby. And, of course, being an artist and a musician, I thought, well, maybe I'm just supposed to do that and write music and all that. So I have this dream, and it's John on the hillside, and we come together, and he points to his stomach and then mine, and he smiles. And then he does that a few more times, and I'm like, yay. I remember sarcastically, he says, yay. Um, we, yay, John. I finally dreamed with John again, and he's telling me we both have stomachs. But then and I'm married. Okay, I've always been connected to John, but I did get married. And anyway, so it's 2 weeks later, I find out I'm pregnant. Literally 2 weeks later, and the doctor said I was only 4 weeks pregnant. So when I saw that dream of John, I had no idea I was pregnant, and it was with my daughter Julia. So yeah, he told me I was pregnant. So that's a paranormal experience that I had forgotten about. No stepchildren, and I am great grandmother from Peter's children, and you are like their real, um, and they really love you. Great grandmother from Peter's children. Well, that's beautiful. Yeah, so that explains why I saw them more in spirit with their arms around you and not like actual children. But um, people can, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying this. I don't know if this is true or not. This is something that I feel like I need to learn spiritually. If a spirit who's part of our soul family can come in as like a great grandchildren, um, from families, stepchildren, from someone, from a coworker that you love, or a best friend, or even a pet. Like, can we come in? Can those who are on the other side reincarnate as that? And I believe that there's, of course, our soul seed energy can reincarnate, however, and come for a fleeting. And there's also walk-ins and things like that. Um, so who knows? But I do see their spirit around you very lovingly, and you are their mother. You are. So the children that passed on, you are their mother. Yeah, that is sweet. Yes, it is beautiful. Yes, Mr. John. And I've told the story about with Julian. It was a couple years ago. Julian had something on his head, and he said, and of course he's very aloof. He's an Aries, and he's got, his protection, of course, and I don't blame him, and I don't bug as a fan of the Beatles and all that stuff. Doesn't matter what connection I have with John, I don't bug Julian or anyone. But Julian said on his Instagram that he had a scary thing on his head and he had to get it checked out. And so I thought, oh, that's not good. But I didn't feel it was bad. But I remember I was like, he should watch that. Of course, he's Irish, freckles and all that. So he should watch that. And so I took a walk and I kept seeing hat symbols everywhere on the ground. And that's how spirit talks to me a lot, with symbols in the clouds and the ground, things like that. You don't need tarot cards, they're just everywhere. So, and then I open up Instagram and there's a picture of John wearing a hat. And so I go to Julian's page and I just, without any insult, and you should wear a hat, or John says, I just say, hey, you probably should start wearing hats. And so Julian did. He started to wear hats to protect his skin. Um, and it didn't turn out to be cancerous, which is good. So it's mutual. I watch over. Did you know Julia Stanley Lennon also had been told she was too thin to get pregnant? That's why her becoming pregnant with John was such a shock to everyone. I didn't know that, but I did know that she and Alf, they had an age difference, and that was true in my relationship too. Probably about like a 9-year difference. And also, my husband is older than me, but we're not married anymore, obviously. Um, but also, it was contentious. Her father was not happy about Alfred, um, Fred, and they too had to go get married at the same. Didn't they get married in the same church or place that John and Cynthia did, and ate at the same cafe afterwards, like lunch counter? Um, I thought that's interesting how that repeated. So that's interesting. Um, Lots of similarities for sure. And why did I say it like that? Miss Sweet Julia, she was such a free spirit. I really think that if Julia was alive today, not me, I do feel like I have a lot of her soul energy, but a full reincarnation, I still don't know. But if Julia was alive today, John's mother, she would be on TikTok making videos, and she'd be on YouTube, and she'd be singing. She'd have her ukulele, and she'd probably be viral. So she's just a very beautiful free spirit, I think. And it's funny how John looked. If you see pictures of Fred, I want to say Alf, but Fred Lennon. See, my dad was Floyd. Isn't that funny? My dad was Floyd. Um, he and John look a lot alike, but then as John got older, he looked more like Julia. He got more feminine and took on his mother's features. And it's kind of like Julian. Julian looked more like John when he was younger, and now he has more of Cynthia's really beautiful. You could see it coming out more and more. So I think that's about anything else. It's 9:30 here. I got my puppy dog back here. Oh yeah, he's happy. Okay. As long as he's happy, I'm happy. We're almost at the solstice. Oh, I wanted to say tomorrow Allie is having a show. I'll be on a show with her and another guest, and we're going to talk about UFOs and alien things like that. And I've had some. I won't say them here because I want to say them. I want to save it for tomorrow. But I've had some experiences, and that's paranormal too. Um, Again, anything that's not, it's just without the range of being normal, that's paranormal. So that could be alien experiences as well. But yeah, anything else, my sweet friends? Happy Thursday. I keep saying that. It's only Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you. We'll probably shut this down pretty soon. But yeah, any other questions before we close it down? Thanks for being here. And again, I think that's a real picture. I feel that's a real ghost. I do believe that there are. Here's the thing. Okay. So almost every day, I can catch orbs on camera. Now, I can turn on, like with my iPhone, I can turn on the flash, and the flash will pick up orbs in the camera. There's something about a camera and a flash, and our eyes can't get it, but our cameras do. I don't know. Maybe it's like I said, I think it's a higher frequency, and that's why the cameras pick it up. But John shows up. He doesn't need a flash. This is how I know it's John, because John will show up and I'll see the spirit mass, no flash, nothing. It's just his energy, and he'll float across in front of the camera. Of course, I've always seen in his picture, I've seen like his mouth move. I've seen his spirit energy in his face. I've always been able to look at his pictures and connect with him. I've had where his, like the whole, everything melted away and all it was his eyes. I've had that since I was 18 with him. Okay. You want a strange story? Manson was looking for Brian Wilson when he and John and Harry were working on a song they didn't want to do and decided not to go to the Tate House. Oh, God. Wow. That is scary. Well, Carolyn, have you heard I'm sure you have. Jamie might have talked about this before too. It was where Agatha, no, Angela Lansbury, her daughter was they were in LA because she was working on film, and her daughter was kind of getting mixed up in that crowd in probably Hollywood with Charles Manson, and Angela Lansbury got a bad feeling and moved them away, like out of the country. So thank God. It's just so frightening. I kind of got chills talking about that. Brian Wilson talked about he was writing a song about fire, and it got really intense in the studio, and it got kind of creepy. And then I think they left the studio, and they came back. It was on fire. So that's like a good example of how you can manifest something. Um, I don't know. Felt that was a really interesting story that he told, and so watch out what energy that you hold on to and manifest. Always keep it positive. Which you guys know, she moved her kids to Ireland. Okay, there you go. She moved her kids to Ireland. Smart lady. I mean, she must have really had a bad gut feeling. Charles Manson was a great example of someone who was a he just told the truth enough. He knew enough about society and the truth and philosophy to get in people's heads and make them think that he was sane. And then, but he was clearly a sociopath and he was insane. It was insane. But see how you can get into people's heads as a manipulator with truth. And that's why I always say, like, especially these days with the whole cult thing with 45, and it parallels Jim Jones. See, I keep doing that. Jim Jones. Go watch the Jonestown documentary. There's one on Hulu right now. It's amazing how similar it is, the cult mentality and the narcissist sociopath of 45 and Jim Jones are very similar. And what they do is they talk just enough of the truth, and then they reach out to people who are the fringe of society, like the rejects of society, and then they say, "I will save you. I'm the only one who can help you." And then once they get you in, you can never leave. Um, and it's you have to know who you are. You have to know the core of who you are, and you have to be able to say no. And also, you have to be able to feel the feelings like Angela Lansbury did of, wow, this feels bad. This feels really bad. So I'm going to do something about this. And it's people who don't realize that they don't have that feeling of, this is bad. This doesn't feel right. Um, I don't know. A distant cousin of mine died that night, and I was in the hills. Oh dear, oh my gosh. Are you talking about like Beverly Hills? Is that what it was? That's scary. I feel like that whole area, it's not that I think Hollywood is bad. It's not that I think that actors are bad. Yeah, there's some bad stuff, obviously, in the industry. I mean, anytime you're going to have drugs and whatever, egos and all of that, and sex, you're going to have some bad stuff. It's going to happen. Um, but I just think energetically, that area of Hollywood Hills, of Beverly Hills, there's some bad energy there. It's like a Bermuda Triangle. Um, it makes you wonder. It really does. That's why like New York to me has a cooler feel to it because people are just more honest and independent and tenacious. But I don't know. I live in Kansas. What do I know? What the heck do I know? It's scary, you know. Dennis Wilson from the beach again from the Beach Boys. He got caught up and then luckily didn't get up too caught up, but drugs. Oh, she was one of the victims. Abigail Folger. Folger. Oh, okay. I was wondering if that word meant. Okay. I've read Helter Skelter. I've seen the pictures, but I can't delve too deep because it's just too. Yeah, that energy in it is really creepy. So that's just so sad, that that had to happen. Um, did it have to happen? I guess it was. You know what it was? It was a lesson in being able to not allow someone to lead you down the wrong path and not to be in a cult, not to know that it's wrong. It's wrong to, like Charles Manson tried to tell people that violence was a means to an end for this, politics that you didn't like, for a society that you didn't like. But violence is never the answer. Never, ever, ever, ever. It's never the answer. So Uh, a creepy one, David Bowie reserved front row seats for Johnny Yoko at the Elephant Man. The morning after John was killed, Bowie went past the seats and found John's killer booked next to them. Yeah, that's creepy. Okay. What changed their minds? So is it are you talking about with the Brian Wilson? Okay. Okay, let me go back up to that comment. Okay, so Jansen was in for Brian Wilson when he and John and Harry were working on a song they didn't want to do and decided not to go to the Tate House that night. They didn't want to go. Okay, yes, John. Well, I hear bad scene. Um, it was just a bad feeling, and you know how also when are you need to go, let's say you need to go to work or you need to go meet somebody and you're supposed to be there at a specific time but you can't find your keys. It was like the angels were misplacing and delaying and putting blocks in their path until the point where they were like, well, we're not gonna, it just doesn't feel right, there's too much of this going on, too many delays, too it's just, we're not going to do that, so let's go do this other thing. And so it was just a lot of divine intervention is what it was. Okay, yeah. And that's what it was. It was they had a lot of blocks in their path, and just in their mind they thought, oh, yeah, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. It doesn't feel right, and also we're too stoned, we're too tired. Um, we don't want to go there. So, and think about it, John didn't like to go to like parties like that anyway. He really wasn't his scene. So, and what amazes me is how the Beatles, because Charles Manson stated, like the White Album was, he felt the Beatles were telling him to do these horrible things. Um, it's amazing that the Beatles were able to carry on and be as normal as they were without that affecting them, because that would have affected me. It really would have. I would have been pretty messed up in the head afterwards of hearing that my work made someone go out and kill a pregnant woman. So yeah, if John, I don't, did John ever see Charles Manson? He might have seen him in passing. I think he heard about him. Brian definitely heard about him through Dennis. But see, with John, John did have a good sense, despite what happened to him. He did have a good sense of, that's a loony. I don't want to be around that scene. That's a bad scene. So, and he didn't like people, he didn't like hangers on. And Charles Manson was definitely one of those people who, like a sucker, a soul sucker is what he was. And he was clearly, you could look in his eyes and see that he was insane, to be honest. But see, John could have gone down that path. He could have had his own cult. Um, he was in that whole sort of psychoanalytic world of on Jesus, and so he could have had his own cult. But he decided to go more into the line, and this is where the Maharishi helped. The Maharishi really brought a lot of light into them, and they went inside instead of going outside and looking for validation or letting their anger take over, because John had a lot of anger, and the Maharishi showed them how to have peace and to have light and to go inside and find their inner sanctuary. So that was, the Maharishi was, saved their lives. And I know John dies 10 years later, but he was a really key figure. He was like an angel on earth for them to um, not be like a Charles Manson. So no pressure. But can you ask about Larry Parks? He played Jolson, but was blacklisted by Hollywood for once being a communist. Did he die of a broken heart? Has he made peace with it now? Good Larry Parks. Larry Parks, no pressure. Yes, Larry Parks. He played Jolson. I don't think he died of a broken heart. I think that he died of just normal life. I see him, he had a lot of soul traveling to do on earth, and he kind of lived. Did he travel a lot? Because I saw a train, I saw some travel, I saw him moving around a lot. And he was like a wanderer. He became a, I could be wrong. I am a writer, so it could be literally writing a story right now. I've done that before. Uh, but I feel that he had on Earth. He had to go off in his own world, and again, kind of like I just talked about with John, where John had his own soul thing, journey, inner journey, and Larry Parks, if I'm right, had a journey on Earth and then on the other side. And he did not die of a broken heart. He actually had a lot. And now I'm seeing Jack Kerouac. So I think there's a lot of that where he was sort of like a nomad that went around and he had a soul journey on Earth. He didn't die of a broken heart. He kind of was philosophical about the whole thing. I think that he definitely made peace with it. He was from Kansas. He was buried there. Oh, see, I'll have to look him up later and see. So interesting. Yeah, and that would make sense with the whole train thing because there's a lot of train hopping that happened in the Midwest, in the 1930s, etc., 40s. Interesting. All right. Love you all. I'll answer a few more questions and then I'll have to go. And like I said, I'll be back tomorrow on Allie's show. I haven't been on Allie's show for a long time, so that'll be good to do that. So, see how blind I am? I need contacts so bad. I used to wear contacts all the time. I miss being able to see myself in a camera and not have to. Yeah, Larry Parks. Carolyn, have you might have met Larry Parks at NBC? Love you too, Carolyn. I hope that all is well. Remember to write those letters to Harry. I thought of that today, and I was like, I hope that you don't have to do it every day, but I think that would be good. Letters to Harry. That's such a sweet name. Like I love names like that. I love names like Harry and Henry and Harold. I like names like Levi, Joshua. I think those are really cute names. No, Roger. Okay. She said no. I think didn't he? It seems like he must have become quite um, private. Did he get married and have kids? And he seems like a nomad. Is what I keep saying. I'm gonna look it up afterwards and see. All right. Well, yes, you guys have a beautiful night. Whatever's left of it is almost 10 o'clock here, so it's getting late. And happy solstice. We're right at the beginning tomorrow. Yeah, I'll check them out. The name sounds familiar, so I don't know. That seems like one of those names that I've heard before. Yes, definitely do that. Even if it's on just a computer file. Um, Carolyn, you probably know this, and Jamie, maybe you know this too. There was a book called, what was it, The Artist's Way, and it was a book of exercise. Maybe I need to bring it back out and do it. She would talk about writing 3 pages. It was called Morning Pages, where every morning you would write. But I see for you, I think it'd be more like an afternoon letter to Harry every day, like right around maybe 3 o'clock or something. Anyway, love you. Happy solstice. Shine on, Jamie, and everyone. Take care. And if in the replay, if anybody has questions or stories about their paranormal experiences, I'd be happy to answer, happy to read. I'm fascinated by all of it. So thanks, everyone. Love you. Take care and have a beautiful night. I'll see you tomorrow.